Hey guys, and welcome back to a brand new video. So today I'm going to be editing a photo in the style of Jay Alvarrez. Now if you don't know already, we have uploaded a video of this before. I think it's probably the first one that's I think it's featured on our YouTube page at the moment. It did quite well. A lot of you people liked it. I think we made a few presets of some people as well. Again, I can make a preset pack for this. I might leave a comment down below in the description this time. If you do want a preset, I'll put a poll up on the screen now. Just vote yes or no. And if you do want one, I'll put it up on our website and you guys can go ahead and purchase that. And I'll update the description with a link. But for now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and tell you about what I'm planning on doing in this video. So the last video, we edited something in the style of Jay Alvarrez, but it was a photo of him underwater. Something similar to this style photo here, which obviously was quite a cool photo, like underwater. I think if I go forward 2 as well, this one was the one we edited in the style of. So this one was like a very orange and deep blues style photo, so a really nice photo. We did a video on that. I'll put the link down below in the description so you guys can go ahead and check that one out. However, in this video I want to show you guys how he's now editing. He's changed his style up a little bit more. And he's doing some more stuff with like trees in the background and forestry as opposed to always underwater shots. So the photo we're going to be using today is this one here. We're going to be basing it off this one. So we've got lots of palm trees here, some white sky in the background, and him in the foreground. However, the photo I've got is this one here. So it's a very similar style. We've got the palm trees and the white sky, but we don't have anyone in the foreground. Obviously I haven't got a photo that is identical to his one, but I'm hoping we can get a similar style look to it. Also we're going to be working with this one as well, just looking at the greens and the shadows and how he works with those and the grain and stuff. So first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at some of these photos and we're going to discuss what he does in his photos. So as you can see, they're all kind of quite soft looking photos. Not really crazy on the contrast or the saturation or anything. Just he just has a very specific kind of quite green look to things. He's obviously quite tan, so a little bit of orange in there. We might be able to get that out of our beach, but quite a simple color grade. Hopefully we should be able to do this one quite alright. We'll look at this one. This one's got a little bit more detail in it. So you can see here we've got a little bit of grain in the image. So we might try and put a bit of grain into our one. And he's also got some quite dark blacks down here, but he's also faded them out. You can see that these aren't completely solid blacks. He's put some fade in them, which is quite nice to see. A little bit of contrast going on, but nothing too major. The greens are very like solid green, bluey kind of colours, not anything orangey or browny, like kind of like dead leaves. And again, this kind of orangey teal kind of vibe with the background shadows here and the orange of the skin. So we're going to try and replicate these few photos as best as we can, working off this one here. Okay, so starting with this photo here, what we're going to do first off is start on our basics panel. Now this one is in JPEG, similar to last video that came out hopefully yesterday. I'm trying to upload 7 in a week, but again this one's in JPEG, so we don't know how far we can push this photo, but just so you guys can see that you can edit photos in JPEG in Lightroom, but just not as good as you can if they're in RAW. So I am going to decrease the exposure a little bit. I want to get some dark shadows similar to his up here, you see in the tree line and on the ground, kind of dark shadows, a few highlights, but nothing too drastic, but we do want a bit of contrast in there. So we'll increase the contrast a little bit, again nothing too major, maybe a little bit less than that, plus 15 should do. Highlights, increase that, but that's going to blow out the sky and not too much else, so I think I'll probably just leave that at about plus 27. And then shadows, we don't really want to bring out the shadows too much, because thankfully for me this photo was exposed fairly well to the shadows. Obviously the sky was blown out, but for the shadows I think I might just maybe leave it as it is, maybe bring it up. Actually no, I think I'm going to bring the shadows down a little bit. I think we might be able to do some stuff with these highlights on the leaves with the brush tool later on. So we can leave that down a little bit. And then the whites I think we're just going to leave, because again we don't want to blow anything out. We might bring them up a little bit just to give us some highlights on the leaves over here. So I think probably about plus 20 should do. Blacks again, we might bring those down only down to about -9. Okay, so now as you can see the basic color grade is there. We've got this quite good shadows and highlights going on. Next thing is clarity. Now he does have a bit of clarity, as you can see on the bike. clarity basically increases the contrast quite a bit. You have really sharp highlights and really solid blacks. So we're going to do a little bit of that, and that should hopefully change the tree line a little bit. Yep, you can see it's making our highlights pop a little bit more, a bit like on these leaves around here and on his back, especially on the bike as well with these sharp highlights here. So that should be about right, plus 31. Now for the saturation and vibrance, I think what we're going to do is probably leave those as standard, and we might come back in a bit and adjust it. If anything, I might put the vibrance up a little bit and the saturation down, probably to about that. So this should give us a nice base kind of green color that's already getting closer to his green here. So plus 30 on the vibrance and minus 11 on the saturation. So for now we'll do a before and an after. You can see nothing drastic, but a little bit more contrast and giving the image a little bit more of a pop. Next up, we're going to do the tone curve. We're going to put a dot on the bottom, middle and top so we can control the shadows, midtones and highlights separately. And as I said at the beginning, we are going to put a little bit of fade on our image, not too much. If we go too high, you see it looks a little bit strange, but if we crush the blacks, again, it looks a little bit strange. So if anything, just a small amount like that should do. See, I think we might want to bring up the shadows a bit. If we drop them too much, it's becoming too contrasty, so I am going to bring the shadows up a little bit. Midtones, I think, will probably leave where they are. Maybe bring them up a tiny bit. If anything, leave them. We'll bring them up a small amount. This probably depends on your photo. Just make the tone curve look as good as you can. Obviously, highlights, we're not going to do too much on them because it's going to look a bit weird if we do too much, but again, bring those up a small amount. So if I turn the tone curve on and off again, you can see the effect it's making. Okay, so now we're going to come down to the hue, saturation and luminance panel. As you can see by this image, most of our colors are going to be yellows and greens, maybe a bit of oranges and maybe a small amount of blue in the sky, but as you can see, ours and his are very washed out and he's blown out the highlights, so there's not really much to see on the sky. So what we're going to do is focus on trying to get this really rich green color. So we're going to come down to our green panel and we're going to just drag this towards the right. Now, as you can see, we're already getting closer to the green color. We're going to do the same with our yellows. We're going to drag those to the right. Obviously, if you drag them to the left, you get more of that orangey look if we drag them both to the left, which he does have in a few photos, but for this particular style that he's got going on at the moment, we've got quite a bit of green going on here. So drag them both up to the right a little bit, and then I think we're going to bring down the saturation of the greens a little bit down, and maybe the same with yellows, just drag them down a little bit so it's not too overbearing. So that's already looking pretty similar to the greens that we've got in his photos. You can see already we're getting quite close to his style. Now later on I might go back and adjust some of the basics panel just to finalize it, but I think at the moment this is looking pretty good. Now we want to try and adjust this beach down here. It's looking pretty green at the moment, so that should probably be in our orange panel. Yep, so we're going to drag that quite far to the left, just to kind of make that contrast. I'm going to bring it down to minus 100. Again, you probably won't want to bring yours down to minus 100 because hopefully you're editing in RAW and not as a JPEG, but for mine I'm going to have to take it down quite far simply because it's in JPEG format. So the reds, there's nothing there. I was hoping there would be a little bit more on the beach. You can also do this and just check what else is going on the beach, and yep, it's maybe a little bit of yellows, which is probably why it's gone a little bit green, because we're dragging this up to the right. So we are going to adjust the blues a little bit, just bring them up, slide them around, and as you can see, as I said, probably not much to see in this photo. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to come down to saturation. We've already adjusted the yellows and the greens, but I am just going to bring down the blues all the way down to 0, because we have got a little bit of blue going on down here and it just gets a little bit confused, and we just want to make sure that the sky is as white as possible, just to match his sky here. So I want to see if you've got a picture of any of the water that he's got, if he's got trees and water in. Okay, so I'm thinking maybe this one to look at. As you can see, this one has a lot of fade going on in the photo down here, and the waters are quite rich blues. Now our water, because it was taken in a muddy river, is very green. What we're going to do to combat this really green muddy brown river, we're going to kind of cheat a bit and use our brush tool. We're going to turn on show selected mask overlay, decrease the brush size and cheat by bringing the tint down to the blue. Now some people don't like it when people do this because this is kind of cheating a little bit, but you could do this in Photoshop. You can probably do hue panel. It can do a little bit better than Lightroom in certain respects, but we are just going to do this and see if we can bring this a little bit more to the blue side, just so we can get a little bit more color range in our photos. I've selected the sea, or the water of the river. I'm just going to hopefully just rub off a bit off the land by holding down Alt, and then we can turn off the selection mask overlay, and as you can see already, that's made that pretty blue as it is. Now what I am also going to do is increase the exposure here a little bit, just brighten up the water a little bit, not that much, I think only a small amount. Increase the shadows as well, just so we have a little bit of a flatter look to things, and decrease the contrast. Okay, so I'm going to bring up the clarity a little bit as well. That's going to make those highlights pop in the water a little bit, and there we go. That's probably the best I'm going to be able to do to get rid of the green from the water. So if I delete that, you can see the difference it's made, though. It has made quite a lot of difference on the waterline. Okay, so I've come to the basics panel here, and now what I'm going to do is, as I said I might do earlier, is just drop those shadows a little bit more, just to get a little bit more interest going on in the photo. Now what I think I might do now is get a brush tool, and we're going to try and go ahead and make things stand out and pop a little bit more. So we can take down the exposure, make sure everything's set back to 0, but just bring down the exposure a little bit. And in the areas where there's shadows, we're just going to brush over a little bit, just to bring a little bit more selective contrast into the areas of the photo that we think we need it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go back and we're going to do the opposite. We're going to work with the highlights, just increase the exposure, just to make some of these leaves stand out and pop a little bit more out of the image, just to bring as much life to this picture as we can. So hopefully at the moment you can see we're slowly getting closer to Jay Alvarrez style photography and of his photos. As I said at the beginning of the video, if you do want a little bit more towards one of his like water or underwater edits, then you can go ahead and check the other video. I'll put the link down below in the description, and that should help you out quite a bit in terms of editing the underwater photos. Okay, so I don't think there's much more I can do in terms of the shadow. Okay, so that's down to -1.6 now. That's already looking a little bit better. Things are popping out a bit more. So now we're just going to do new, create a new brush, and bring the exposure up a little bit more towards the opposite side. And we're just going to brush over these highlights on the leaves. I am as well going to just try and highlight this side of the tree here. Got to be careful that I don't highlight too much. You see now the tree's looking really quite bright, which is a little bit unnatural. So we are going to have to go ahead and change that back, just by bringing the exposure down a little bit. But you can see the kind of the idea that I'm going for here. Increase the highlights and decrease the shadows, but selectively. So that's far too bright. What I like to do now is just drop it back to 0, and then just bring it up a small amount to where you can think you can just about notice it. Okay, so there we go. That is the final edit of the entire image. Once again, I'm just going to do a before and an after. So I hope you enjoyed that edit, guys. I really enjoyed making this video. Hopefully that's shown you guys how you can do some tree photos or palm tree photos to get a little bit more of the look like Jay Alvarrez. If this was me, I would probably crop out the waterline here. Actually, I might try and do that now because I don't really think the water's working. So what happens if we do this, for example, and select done, and if I put that into full screen now, I don't know whether that looks a little bit better than with the water. You guys can make your own decisions. But thank you for watching, guys. I really hope you did enjoy this video. Hopefully it's given you a little bit of an insight how Jay Alvarrez edits his photos. Again, as I said, check out our other video, and if you guys do want a preset pack on our website for this, just vote up in the poll and let us know, and I should go ahead and I'll make that for you guys and I'll put it on the website. But thanks for watching, guys, and hopefully we'll see you in the next one. Live long and prosper.